Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Mortgage Coach Tuesday interview. Today, I am interviewing Elizabeth Turra. Turra. I said it right when we were
You got
prepping,
it.
right, Elizabeth?
Yeah. You can take my husband for that one.
Yeah. No, it's actually just like it sounds, Turra. It's just a name I haven't said before, except for talking to you. So thanks for making time to share your story, bring your tactics and strategies to the mortgage coach community.
You're very, very welcome.
Well, I am looking forward to getting into it. We also have joining me as our co-host today, Mr. Todd Bookspan, the CEO and founder of Win by Noon and the Modern Mortgage Summit. What's up, Todd?
Hey, not much. Good morning. It's great to be here. It was great to meet Elizabeth today. I'm looking forward to hearing her story. And yeah, it's, modern, you mentioned Modern Mortgage Summit. We're in Modern Mortgage Summit go times, getting super excited as the countdown is here. I think we're a little over not even 5 weeks away from it. So it's time.
Yeah. So we have started the marketing of that. We've received some really cool videos from Shayla Gifford, Dan Keller, Robin Lavasser, just some great examples of what it means to be a modern mortgage advisor. Want to remind folks, what does it mean to be modern? It means you're leveraging technology to deliver a better consumer experience and to be more efficient with the way you communicate and educate customers. It means that you're using media to communicate, build audience, build brand. And guys, it means you're a leader. You not only can lead yourself, you can lead a team, you can lead a client. So really, those are the three pillars. The leadership pillar, you have advice. We believe that advice is more important than price. So make sure you guys check it out, modernmortgagesummit.com. It's only $99 to sign up. It's October 6th, which is the first Wednesday in October. Check it out. If you're a manager, share it with your team. Todd, anything else you want to add to that before we bring Robin on stage and learn more about her story?
Well, we're really high tech this year. You can do the upsell. There's an upsell for another $50. You can pre-buy the 1-year access. Last year, we had so many of you buy 1-year access for another $100. We decided to offer it up front for an extra $50. So that's just a way to save yourself some time and have access to the content for a full 365 days.
Yeah. So remember, guys, it's $99 for a live event plus 30 days. Add $50 if you want to have access to the recording for an entire year. It looks like we had Deborah Bird join us too. What's up, Deborah?
What's up?
So now we got 3 coaches against 1 player. Elizabeth, how do you feel about those odds?
We're all going to learn something. How about that?
That is absolutely true. So every Tuesday, we're calling it TCA Tuesday at 11 o'clock Pacific. We're doing the TCA a day challenge. Jeremy Forcier, I believe, is going to be our head coach again today at 11 o'clock. And this is just a sales meeting where we're helping a bunch of loan officers that are volunteers that are saying, I want to go to the next level with Mortgage Coach in a TCA a day. So check that out. That'll be live at 11 o'clock today. Deborah, anything you want to say before we start interviewing Elizabeth?
No, I'm excited to learn more about Elizabeth and how she's been killing it. So I'm ready to learn.
Cool. What's your shirt say today? You've always got something on your shirt.
Subjective experience over objective reality.
All right. I'm going to have to write that down and think about it.
And then it has the Disney World Castle. So it's part of
the
Disney experience.
Right on. We'll jump in with any questions as we go. So Mortgage Coach community, I've met Elizabeth before, but I interviewed her for her company. We were doing a re-rollout of Mortgage Coach at the company she works with, and she's one of the top producers at that company. She's also one of the top users of Mortgage Coach, and she killed it. I'm like, I want to learn more from her. I want to hear her story in more detail. So here we are today. A couple of things I do know going into the interview is that she's on pace to help over 150 families this year. So she's definitely doing great production, and she manages a branch that is on track for doing over 200 million this year and did over 200 million last year. So I mean, we know she's a great leader, and we know she's delivering advice more than price. So Elizabeth, tell us a little bit about your mortgage practice and how long you've been in the business.
Been in the business for 17 years now. I, like anybody, I just love this business because everybody trips into it somehow and then it's like, oh, I guess I'll do mortgages. And I got started because my husband and I were buying our first house right when we were getting married. And my loan officer hired me. After that, he realized from my 1003, evidently I was pretty underemployed. So had a pretty good opportunity to realize it didn't take much. But I actually still work for that same loan officer today. He is my current boss. He is our EVP at my company. And this business has the best people in it. And I am always surprised and grateful for that. And I'm never disappointed by that. So that's a little bit of my story. I've met a lot of good people along the way. I've got a lot of people that would pick up a call if I called randomly, and that I'd pick up for them. And so if you're if you're new to this business and you haven't dived very deep into those relationships yet, do it, because they will all stay with you for all this time. And I'm really grateful for it. Yeah, 17 years. I think I might be getting good at it by now. Like finally, I feel like I could do this job.
I love that. And what a cool mortgage story. Your loan officer hired you 17 years ago and you're still together. So that's pretty beautiful. And there is no doubt there could be a great reality show that would, be very popular, just called Mortgage Stories. How we all fell into the business, because it's not like there's a major, loan officers at colleges and people are like, oh, I want to be a loan officer when I grow up. Now, they don't realize how much opportunity there is. I think it is the most hidden secret profession out there. The flexibility, the income potential, the purposeful business, which it sounds like you've developed. What at this point, 17 years into it, it sounds like in year one, it was make more money. Like that was your mortgage why.
It was have a job.
Okay, so it's have a job. What is it today? Like when you think of what's the purpose beyond just having a job and making money for you?
My definite purpose, and this is my whole life, which is really, really cool, is to create opportunities for other people that they might not have been able to do for themselves. And when I talk about that, I talk very specifically about how that happened in my parents' life, and people that have bumped into my parents and made life, didn't do it for them, but they gave them a shot, and they gave them the building blocks and the right counsel and just a little bit of rah-rah behind it. And so that's what I hope to be able to do for not only the people that my clients, but the people I work with every day, and my coworkers, my referral partners, my neighbors, my kids. So if I can use my talents to make their lives just a little bit wider and more available to them, then that's pretty flippin' cool. Really, really cool.
Wow.
And I get to do that in mortgage strategies. I get to do that in just conversations in the hallway. But mortgage show is just really a big component of how I'm able to communicate that to the layperson in a way that makes them feel comfortable and calms that biggest nerve that is in freak out mode a lot of times in a home buying process.
Gosh, I love that. I don't know that I've ever heard someone's mortgage why or purpose articulated the way you just did it, to create opportunities in others that they can't see themselves or don't see themselves. So you had mentioned there was a story about your family that built that value or created that for you. What, I mean, is it too personal, or do you mind sharing that story?
Oh, no, it's not too personal at all. I mean, my family is the best that I know. I hope everybody has a family like mine. So neither of my parents started out with very much support from their own households for very good reasons, for not good reasons, whatever, but they had each other, and they bumped into just in this world, it just cracks me up. They just randomly, kind of came into agreement with another couple that was older than them. And they gave them a chance at my dad at managing his gas and service stations in the Denver metro area. And so over time, lots of good reasons for that. My dad earned a lot of trust with that family. And later on, my dad purchased a piece of real estate. I'm also a big believer in real estate wealth because of my parents, but they purchased a piece of commercial real estate for him to operate his business off of. And that other couple had backed them on that loan too. And so they didn't give them money. They didn't give them a job. They gave them an opportunity to stand up straight and to do more than they could have otherwise. And in my world, that's super important, because not only did those people help my parents and help my family directly, but not only that, but my parents built businesses that then employed other people and gave other people an opportunity to work and have income for their families and support their families. And the goodness that you can create by opening a door that you'll never be able to measure the depth and the breadth over the entire world. You just got to do it. You just got to help other people that way. So when I talk about helping other people, I don't necessarily believe that means, okay, I'll help you move your refrigerator into your house or whatever. I mean, I'll do that too, but I'm talking about deep, meaningful, creating wealth and creating opportunities for them to be able to take care of themselves.
Wow. That is such a cool story and pretty powerful. Todd, any questions on that or any comments you have?
Well, I mean, comment, it's beautiful. I agree. I was laughing because, we're all three of us are sitting here writing down when you were talking about your mortgage coach why. And I just love that word opportunity, right? And you just said it, you didn't take your parents didn't take any handouts. But, ultimately in the end, they had someone who believed in them and helped support their growth. And it just reminds me, some of you may remember on one of the Friday calls, it's been a few years now, I interviewed a gentleman named Steve Chater, and he's very close friends with Gary Keller. And he owns some Keller Williams market centers, and actually was able to hang out with him for a few hours yesterday. And we talked about that word opportunity and how important it is. Here he is 69, and he's talking about how he's going out and looking for opportunity right now as, someone, most people would be, kind of going on the backside. He's actually going on that front side. And so I love the fact that you're super focused on that. So how do you bring that then to a mortgage conversation with a client who's calling you for the first time?
It depends, right? So it depends. I mean, we talked a lot about a difference of a first-time home buyer versus somebody who's buying a move-up home or buying a piece of investment real estate. But I often will share those stories that my family's wealth was built off of real estate, and not in a greedy way, but just in a really smart way, in a way that said, you can take care of yourself way, right? So if it's a first-time home buyer, I'll a lot of times share a story like, hey, I was a first-time buyer too, right? At one point, I had the same conversation with my loan officer. And at one point, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And I didn't have very much income and blah, 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 blah. And now you're talking, I owe my whole career to him, right? I can have those really specific conversations. And that's why we're having these conversations now, because I believe so much in it that I chose an industry to live my career in that supports people trying to buy their first homes. And so one of the parts that I missed on the other part of the story is my parents, the house they bought, their first house when I was a little kid, little, like 2 or 3, was, I think it was a bank-owned property, but they put sweat equity into that, and they sold it and bought 2 investment properties as a result of that. Didn't really want to exchange those properties. And those incomes from those 2 properties pay for their living expenses now in retirement. So, I can explain all of those things and say, hey guys, this is a true way. If you're smart about this and you're thoughtful, and we spend a little time putting together a midterm and long-term strategy after you're just get over the idea of you want to buy a house because it seems cool and you want to paint it purple or whatever. But to integrate the idea of this is not just a right now conversation. This is a wealth building over time and for your entire family conversation.
Love that. Deborah, any comments or questions you have?
Yeah, I'd love to know your strategy after the close and how you keep that conversation going. And, how do you keep the notes? Like, is there a CRM that you use so that it's super organized so that when you make that annual call or, what does that process look like?
So I'm glad Dave said this earlier, but I rely heavily on HomeBot for this. These conversations dovetail so well with HomeBot's how they've put together the consumer interface. So it's really great because the HomeBot will put together those things that I'm already talking to them about anyway. And now that's being monthly dripped to them, these kind of constant, hey, remember, you can do this. Hey, remember, this is not just a one-time thing. You didn't just buy this house, you could live in it. And if you did, you did. That's cool too. All those things are fine. But just remember, there's more opportunity there than just because you had to have a physical place to rest at night, which is very, very important. And you can turn it into a real wealth conversation. I would say I have an uncanny memory at remembering people's details. So it's not hard for me. I wouldn't recommend this to anybody else. I really wouldn't. It's the most terrible idea. It's not hard for me to pick up, to have somebody call and say, hey, blah, blah, blah. It's so funny because everybody always says, you probably don't remember me. Or if you remember, we bought this, blah, 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 blah. And they trying to like jog my memory. And I was like, oh, of course, it's good to hear from you, right? But it's because I'm having these really connective conversations with people that I care. If they're willing to listen in a new way that they've never listened before, we're going to be friends forever. It's just how it's going to be. If they're, of a personality that says, I just need this access to security of a place to live right now and just shelter. Okay, cool. But those people are probably calling me back. That's probably just not happening because we don't have that same connection. But if they hear my messaging and my interest in their ability to change their wealth picture overall, we're going to click pretty easy. And those people are always going to call me back. Maybe they won't. But from a CRM perspective, I still use good old-fashioned notes on people. From the conversations that you're talking about, CRM otherwise is not necessarily, I'm not going to put my notes for those people in. But I just started that way so long ago I have a page for each person when I first have an intake call with them. And I add to that each time that I have that conversation. So it's pretty easy to go back and find that. But man, it's usually if you can go deep enough with people and you can have a conversation where you've changed their life in a very specific way, it's really not hard to remember them then.
I'm loving this conversation. So let's, well, first of all, before we start unpacking the tactics, because I want to hear some of your scripting around Mortgage Coach and HomeBot. I want to hear specifically how you use a Mortgage Coach. But before I do that, Deborah, do you have any other questions or directions you want to go?
No, I was just curious on, that what she was able to learn from such a young age from her parents is incredible. And I'm so thankful for people like you, Elizabeth, who take the time to educate your clients and teach them this because they don't teach you it in schools. And so I was curious on the consistent messaging or the lessons that, sometimes you have to be shown a couple times, maybe even during the process, after the process to really get it. Because I think there's still that pushback of, oh, well, that was just her, or that couldn't happen to me. So I was curious more on, is there email database marketing that you do? Do you do things on social? Like, how do you consistently, maybe it's a TCA Tuesday where you go live or send that to your past clients to show the ways that you're building wealth for people? How do you consistently get the messaging out there to have that paradigm shift for some?
So
I don't. Not saying I shouldn't or I don't want to. I just don't. I'm just hoping.
Good. I can help you with that, Elizabeth.
I'm just hoping people will be like, she's amazing. Why would you not refer her all over the place?
yeah. So when we're this month, so last month was all about do a TCA a day, and you're in that club. You're a Mortgage Coach Grandmaster, but we added a caveat last week to do a one-to-many TCA once a week. So take one of your stories and then tell it, might be a video, might be a post, but now put that on Facebook and put that on social media, but and really the goal is where there's some fiscal literacy taking place. Talk about a family where they were thinking one way, you showed them another way, tell that story, and then broadcast it, get great distribution, email it, So anyways, it's something we are doing in the mortgage coach community. If you want to do more on that, you and Deborah can take that offline. And by the way, anyone listening to this right now, highly recommend you do this. You know, you're building a brand, whether you're doing it in a big way or in an unintentional way,
Sure.
you have a brand.
Mhm.
So be more intentional about that. And one of my goals at Mortgage Coach, well, no, my mission at Mortgage Coach is to change how people get into debt in America. Every family should know that when you get into debt, it's the biggest, for most families, it's the biggest financial planning decision they ever make. And there's better ways to do it. You know, they think one way and they talk to a mortgage coach. There's usually a better way. And then every family should know the power of prepaying your mortgage and getting out of debt quicker. Is that something you show families a lot, the power of prepaying their mortgage?
Yes, I very often, and again, you know, you got to be sensitive to your audience, but very often I'll talk about, all right, if you want to pay an extra $200 a month, actually I just did one yesterday. I've done like all the families loans at this point because I'm that old. But now I'm doing like the younger brothers refinance, and mom's heavily involved. And mom, I mean, you guys should get a shout out. She's like, hey, neither one of us are really numbers people, but this presentation really made it easy to understand. I was like, I know, thank you. Thank you. You know, so when you get those kind of things, that there are people giving you these emotions, right? They're saying, hey, emotionally, this gives me peace. Emotionally, this makes me more comfortable. I'm not so worried about this. Then they can actually have more of a conversation with you as far as what they're really trying to do. And so from that, I got from her, all right, what they really want to look at is he's probably going to buy another piece of real estate in the next 3-ish, maybe 5-ish years. And so her question was, well, at that point, either he's going to sell it or he's going to refinance it, pull cash out to do another purchase, right? So we all know probably doing a cash out refinance in 3 to 5 years is probably not as exciting as you could do, right, if you borrowed money today. And so she talked about the difference of, all right, what if he just pays down the mortgage quicker? So then when he sells it, he'd have a bigger check from that. I'm like, okay, that's one way we could look at it. Right. So I showed her what that looked like. I said, all right, we had our scenario chosen with, we were doing a much lower cost refinance since he wasn't going to be there very long. And she felt really good about that. And then versus doing a lower rate with higher expenses. Right. And but then I showed her a column. All right, here's what it looks like if he pays $200 a month extra towards the mortgage in 5 years versus here's what it looks like if he pays $200 extra towards his existing investment accounts that he already has at his very conservative, I use 6% return, right? And the difference there was like, I don't know, $4,000 or $5,000 over in the next 5 years. Not a huge amount, but enough to make her say, oh, I didn't even think about that. And so she's like, well, of course we'd rather do that. And not only that, but then he wouldn't have to sell that piece of real estate. He could, hopefully with his other accounts, be able to make a down payment with the other pieces if he had anyway. So the idea there is that if we talk about prepaying a mortgage, we got to figure out what the real goal is. If the real goal is just to pay off the loan, okay, that's what the real goal is. Hardly ever, though, does that operate in a vacuum by itself without some other variation of financial goals happening in tandem. And so in this case, it was definitely better for them, rather than paying down the mortgage, to increase their overall net worth and still be able to buy this other piece of real estate maybe down the line without having to sell the other one. So I would say not often am I saying here's how to pay down the loan faster. I am more consistently talking about here's how to increase your net worth greater.
Got it. So a fiscal literacy lesson that you teach and talk about with just about every client that's thinking about refinancing is the power of their money. And
Yep.
And in this particular case, the power of money was 6,000, 5,000 better over 5 years, and they had liquidity. So to your point, they didn't have to do the cash out refi. They were putting that money where it was liquid and they had access to it. So it made sense. So I love that. And before I ask the next question, because I want to know what's another really common solution you have for a problem, or an opportunity where the light bulb goes on for people. But Todd, any questions you have or any comments you have at this point?
Well, quick comment. I threw a link into both Facebook and into Zoom. If anyone wants, I'm doing a webinar next week, since mentioned HomeBot, on how to create increased client engagement with HomeBot. So we'll use the steal the word of the day opportunity and how to create more opportunities with clients. So sign up, not selling anything. I also did throw that WBN lender code in there. So if you are the one person who's watching this who doesn't have HomeBot, it'll waive the $200 fee to get that activated. No, I mean, I think you nailed it with your question there, Dave. I mean, I just love the fact that you're uncovering opportunities for people and that you changed this guy's mom's paradigm with regards to how to think about money and investing and prepaying debt and in real estate. And so I know where you're heading, Dave, to other examples, and that's absolutely what I'm interested in hearing as well.
Yeah, and part of why I'm asking, I'm actually collaborating with Dan Keller right now, and part of the, like I already stated, the Mortgage Coach mission, but one of the things is to get some of these fiscal literacy lessons, because they really are, like, that's a 5-minute lesson that you gave that person to teach them something that they didn't already know. And there's probably a half a dozen to a dozen of them. And there are also lessons that we could get to college students. You know, like a lot of college students don't realize that, you know what, you might be able to buy a duplex or a fourplex easier than you think. And they may not realize how that could really help them start off at life, or they get out of college and they can do that. So there's a lot of fiscal literacy lessons, and I want to build a library of those. In fact, we're going to have a few of those at the Modern Mortgage Summit. There's going to be some pretty amazing 5 minutes or less fiscal literacy lessons that we will air at the Modern Mortgage Summit. So Elizabeth, any other kind of common ahas that you create for people?
I would say I really love, especially on a purchase, using single premium MI, either financed or paid in cash, instead of doing a 20% down payment. And we can look at a TCA on that when you're ready, but
let's do it. Yeah, like rather than, you know, I think we're at that point where let's do a little show and tell. Let's get tactical. I do have a couple of questions as you get ready to share your screen.
Yeah.
How do you usually deliver it to a client? Is it usually a link in an email and then they're on their screen looking at this while you're talking? You know, what is the most common way you deliver this?
Most common by far is I'll email a link. I can't remember who gave me all these little nuances in this community along the way, but I'll send an email and I will make it a hyperlink text. So I'll say, like in this case, it was, shucks, I can't even remember what I called this one, but I think I usually use total cost analysis for his last name. So I want to make it look hyper customized for the client. So it doesn't look like it's a one size fits all, because it's not. I spent time making it custom for them. So I want it to appear that this link is special for them. And so I'll put a link, I'll put the text, and sometimes they'll just say purchase price comparison. Sometimes it'll be refinance strategies for this family, whatever the name is, or whatever. So I'll type that and then I'll hyperlink it to the Mortgage Coach link. And then I'll include a BombBomb video that I walk through the screen share, and I spend too long. I cannot get those things under 5 minutes. I swear I have so much stuff I want to talk about. But usually it's 4 to 5 minutes, maybe 6 minutes if I'm really excited. But explaining and walking through and making sure they can find all of the stuff I know they're going to need to see. That's my main point, is I want to give this to them in a way that's not overwhelming, that's something they can consume and they can walk through on their own. I want them to feel empowered and knowledgeable by the time they get done reading through the TCA and hearing me explain it to them. So that I probably do it that way 98% of the time.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, let's tell us what we're looking at and walk us through the strategy and let us know how the client responded to it.
Okay, this client was one of the harder ones I've talked to in a while. So he was that guy. But he wanted a 20% down. He's buying a $600,000 house in Denver, which is like a normal house these days. But he just thought in his head he had 20% down to do, and he was pulling it from a line of credit that he had on another piece of real estate in Illinois, somewhere else. He had inherited, I believe, 10 pieces of real estate from his family somehow. And so he's pretty savvy, and he wants to be able to buy more real estate. He understands the idea of leveraging his assets to be able to buy more assets, to have more cash flow and let them all appreciate and grow. He gets it. But he still had in his mind that he's going to put 20% down on this house, right? Even though he's that guy and he has that understanding of the world, 20% down was still the just expectation. So I showed him the difference between, he ended up choosing also, because I knew he was trying to preserve capital to be able to buy another piece of real estate earlier. We ended up choosing this column, this credit, so that his cash to close was the least. You can ignore that right column for a minute. But so that's what he chose. He ended up choosing this guy, okay? And that was very thoughtful and intentional, and also against his initial expectation, which is he wanted to go for the lowest interest rate. So he got it, no problem. And I said, if you can quantify the difference over 5 years, this is $1,000 difference to you, that's it. Okay, what else could you do with that extra five grand difference at closing? You can go buy another, you can add it to your real estate down payment on the next one. So if he can quantify what that risk is, and I talk about that a lot too, saying, all right, what's the difference? Right, sure, this is lowest overall total cost, but if you can say over 5 years, it only cost me $1,000, $200 a year to be able to retain this kind of capital, that's when he decided he could do that version, okay? So again, that came with the idea, like I had conversations with him. I knew what his background was. I knew what his forward-looking goals were, and was able to give him some recommendations based off of that. So after he said, all right, that's cool, then I also gave him this other option, this 15% down option with upfront mortgage insurance. And I think we financed this one. Nope, we didn't. Let me show you why. So the thing is, I mean, you guys all know, I'm sure by now, but if you do along with mortgage insurance versus no mortgage insurance, it's more attractive pricing because there's less risk to the investor that they won't get their cash back. Now they have an insurance policy they can go claim against, right? So we talked about that. We talked about the difference of, hold on, let me show you guys. We talked about the difference of, all right, it's going to actually increase this lender credit that you chose by $2,300, right? So it's going to increase this lender credit because we're adding mortgage insurance in. And now the mortgage insurance only costs you $1,700. So you just gained $2,300 and it costs you $1,700. You're still $600 the right way. Well, not quite 600, $500 or $600 the right way. So this is still even a lower cost option than he would have done if he had done a 20% down. And he doesn't have mortgage insurance as monthly payment. It's so cool, super duper happy. The other thing that this does for him is it gets him another, what's the difference between 123 and 93? 30 grand, right?
Yeah.
So that's like a lot of money. So he gets to save 30 grand, keep it in the bank, 5%, right? And it doesn't cost him anymore to do so. In fact, he gains $500 or $600 this way.
Powerful. Deborah, any comments or thoughts on that? I know you got to jump pretty soon. Want to give you a chance to ask questions or give color.
I just appreciate these calls so much because, you know, I get to work with a lot of different loan officers who maybe haven't been in the business for 17 years. So exactly what Elizabeth just explained in that whole metacognition process of how she was able to create the strategy is so helpful for so many loan officers that are listening to this, or maybe we'll listen to it later. So it's incredible. So thank you, Elizabeth. It's great.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites.
And some of the teachable moments, guys, she knows what the client's goal is. She's not making assumptions. She's, you know, even little changes here, it's information the consumer didn't know. So I just have to imagine that almost like a lot of loan officers that are mortgage coach, the goal is to get the consumer to go, aha, whether they say it out loud or whether they say it to themselves. It sounds to me like you want them to say aha like 3 or 4 times. You know, like you're not happy until they're like, didn't know that. Like you're literally playing that game where you want to give them multiple ahas. And then, you know what happens? She becomes memorable, she becomes valuable, and she gets referrals. Todd, any questions or comments you have so far?
Just a quick question. So obviously you gave them 3 options with 20% down. Did you give that 15% option up front, or did you add that in as you were talking to him?
Thank
about
you. That's really important because I did not add that until later. So we had only talked about those 20% down options to begin with, so I could get the right rate fee combination for him, right? So that was the variable we were looking at then. And once we had selected which version we felt really good about, and we chose that on purpose, then I said, okay, now, are you ready? It's going to hurt your brain a little bit. And I promise I don't want you to be hurt. I promise it'll hurt a little bit, but then when we get there, you're going to feel really good about it. Are you ready? We're going to see this. He's like, okay. I was like, do you trust me? Right? Because you have to build some trust in order to challenge people's preconceived notions and what they've been told by all of society and their family and ads on the radio and all these other things in order to be able to challenge that. And so then I said, all right, we're going to look at these. And for this demonstration today, I left all of them in there, but I unselected the 2 middle columns for that because I was trying to keep it easy for him. But say, all right, we're looking at either 20% down with this rate and fee structure or 15% down with this rate and fee structure. These are the 2 variations we're looking at. It's kind of like I talk to clients a lot about when you go to the optometrist and they're like, better 1, better 2, right? And you're like, better 2. Okay, now better 2, better 3, and you do that. So that's the idea, that you're not asking for better 1, better 3. You're not asking for that yet. You can't get there until you do better 1, better 2.
So what do you say to the loan officer then, who they show the 3 options, they select one, they're like, hallelujah, I can move on to the next person, right? You're challenging the client and you're taking the extra time to make them think about better opportunities down the road. So how do you encourage the LO who just wants to be done? Hallelujah, they picked it and wants to bail out.
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say, why are you a part of this industry? I mean, I would really focus on that part, because if you're here to make a bunch of money for you, then that's the path of least resistance, and that gets you money to go on to the next person. It's fine. Okay. I'm not going to tell you that's right or wrong. But it's not my judgment to make on that. However, I know why I'm here, and I'm here to make a really positive difference for people. And the way I get to do it is by using the analytics that I have, 1, been taught, 2, cultivated, and 3, observed from so many other people around me. But to really create more chances for more wealth and more security for other people. So I'm not going to say it's right or wrong because it's not my judgment, but I would highly, highly encourage, what are you doing? Why are you here? How are you living your life? And if that's what you want to do, then that's where you want to be. But there's more. You can do more for people.
I just love that. I love it that you can choose to make money for yourself, or you can choose to make money and impact the rest of the world, the rest of your clients.
But that comes back to you. I mean, everybody knows that, right? And younger in our careers, everybody is more like, I need this. This is just financial security for me that I can't avoid. I have to have this, and that's okay. But you also usually have more time at that point in your careers. So if you probably don't have 15 clients you're working with in a day at that point. You have the time. Make the time. Do the skill set. Figure out, play with it. See what you would do. And if you would do that same thing, if that's the best you can come up with, then that's a great recommendation to make to that client.
Yeah, that's so huge. That is so huge. I love it. And, I got to imagine you're practicing what you preach. I have to imagine that you own investment properties that have also done these things as well. That's part of your story that you're telling clients. Is that a good assumption?
Yeah, and it's a very good assumption to be like, I get it because we have right? Or even if I can't relate to it, but my parents did right? And I mean, I feel like anytime you can make people feel like they're not alone in this exploration, that either somebody's figured it out before them and they're willing to help make it shorter, faster, stronger, less costly, whatever that version looks like, the more calm they have. And that's my main piece, is if I can both challenge somebody and meet them on that analytical level, but also not make them anxious or nervous or frozen. I don't want to ever do that to somebody. That's not what I would never challenge somebody I thought that might be the result, because that doesn't serve them. But if you can give relatable stories, either personal stories or ones that you know of other clients, and that's what I think, like Deborah was saying, is like if you can do this one-to-many thing and say, like, this is how I helped this person, it might work for you too.
Yeah, I think everyone's got to remember that, right? You may not have the story yet yourself, right? Elizabeth pointed out nicely, if you're newer, you have the time to do this, but now you have Elizabeth as a friend, so you can use her story of her parents and use that.
How about it, guys?
So think about all the other stories you've heard here that you can swipe and adapt and use, because this is your community. We are your friends. And I just love that. How about you, Dave?
I love it too. And I hope any new loan officers listening to this, you're starting to grow beyond the transaction, because closing loans, knowing how to solve problems for folks to get a loan closed on time, guys, that is not going to make this decade in the mortgage business better than the last decade. The loan officers that are going to thrive and crush it this decade are the loan officers that can go beyond the transaction and really understand how the mortgage decision can help families build wealth, and help how the mortgage decision, making the right one, the strategic one, based off of that client's local market, their personal goals, some of the assumptions they have on the marketplace. When you can put that in and you can dial it in with a mortgage coach, guys, you're going to be more confident and you're going to be more successful. So anyways, loving this. Elizabeth, you really articulated building wealth for your clients well. Thank you. So you just got a nice compliment from someone. Remember, guys, this is a mastermind. If you have questions, put them down below. And if you just have nice things to say, like like Jeanette, we like nice things too. So nice takeaway. So let's get tactical. We got about 19 minutes left. One, I want to make sure no one missed what she said. Like, she showed us 4 programs. In Mortgage Coach, there's a little presentation feature where you can decide, you could have 4 programs built, but you could only show 2 to the client. So make sure you know how to do that. I'm not going to do a tech teaching right now, but if you don't know how to do that, email support or watch a video or play around with it. It's very easy to do. Elizabeth, let's do another TCA. You pick whether it's a purchase or a refi. But I want, when you show it this time, I want to make sure I get your scripting. Like, when you're getting ready to show a client a TCA, it sounds like it's always got their family name. Here's the Smith family, purchase options, total cost analysis. Like, that's your formula for naming things. Is that right?
Something like that. Yes.
Something like that. It's close
you,
enough.
again, you make it really consistent with what you're talking to them about, right?
Right.
You're
So
not
whatever.
making a box that they're fitting into. They're the box that this TCA is fitting into.
But it's always got their family name and then solution, family name, description of the solution in the most simple way possible with a link to a Mortgage Coach TCA. What do you say before you give that link so that when they get it, they're excited about it? Is there some scripting or some common words that you use as you're describing it?
I will talk to them. So if during the phone call, it will be typically a conversation of what their roles are and their tasks are, and then what I promise to them. So usually the conversation is, all right, let's say it's a purchase, because that's easier. But if on a purchase is saying, all right, so your job is to do the application. I'm going to get your homework list. You're going to toss it back at me. Once I have all of that back on my side of the fence, then I can get your pre-approval ready. And I can also put together these options that we're talking about for either your target payment. So usually I'll talk to people about their target payment more than I'll talk to them about purchase price range. But I want to say target payment, and then make sure that payment is comfortable in both a target range and then a stretch. That's how I usually talk to them about it. Say, here's where you want your payment. Here's where you're willing to go. Here's our absolute max. We don't want to go past this. And so what I'm going to give you is a comparison of the purchase prices that will fit with what you're trying to accomplish, with your down payment that you have available, and with what you're comfortable with the monthly payment. Then what we're going to do is we're going to say, all right, this is what this equates to from a price range standpoint. You can then go talk to your agent and say, agent, this is what we're going to be looking for. I'm going to expect from you that when you're looking out there in the market, you're going to help me cross-reference with what the market says is available, with how that overlays on what our purchase price range and the monthly payment comfortability is. And if we need to adjust that, we'll adjust it. We're going to start with a pretty wide funnel, and then we're going to work together to narrow that funnel down so you guys are really comfortable with the property you select. That's
Got
the
it.
question.
Got it. And then when you're showing it, why don't you pull up a total cost analysis and just tell us what you would highlight in the conversation with the client around this TCA. And remember, guys, if you have specific questions, put them down below. We're in the last 15 minutes of this, so I want to make sure I get any questions answered.
You want to purchase one still?
But no, whatever, purchase or refi.
All right, let's look at a refi one, because this one's
yeah.
actually pretty helpful. Hold on, I gotta do is share.
And that refi where you were doing, you know, debt reduction versus invest and liquidity. I mean, I'm not, you show what you want to show, but that is interesting. And I can't remember the last time we showed an example like that on the channel.
I don't have that
This is
one.
good. This is good. This is good. This
This
is good.
one, well, this one's actually pretty useful because this is a past client of mine. They bought a condo. These are sisters that bought a condo together last summer from one of my long-term referral partners. And the conversation we had now, first of all, they've had great appreciation, and they're going to be, I mean, they put 3% down, you guys. This is like my favorite story. They put 3% down on a condo as a joint of sisters, right? One's a nurse, one's a teacher. All the heartstrings. So, but they joined forces, they lived together. They bought this condo, and about 12 months later, they've got 20% equity in this property. Huh. So not only that, but interest rates are lower. Oh my gosh, so many amazing things. So this is going to drop their payment $300 or $400, right? It's a lot. So, however, so I got the first round of things, and then I got this call. I emailed her and I said, hey, what kind of questions did you have while you were reviewing it? And she's like, oh, we actually found somebody to do it less expensive for us. You know, we called blah, 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 ABC radio company.com. And they're going to do it for 3 1/8. And I was like, okay, but you just told me, I can't remember how, but she just told me that she had just, the week after they bought that condo a year ago, she met her current boyfriend, and they are super serious. So she's probably not going to be in this condo for very long. So I said, okay, rather than do that version at 3 1/8, that's got a great lower payment, how about instead we do this as an absolutely no cost? You still drop your payment by $300 a month between mortgage insurance reduction or elimination and interest reduction, and then have it be absolutely no cost to you guys. So you guys can sell that house in a year and it's totally fine. Or if it's in this 2-year time frame you think you're going to be in, you're still ahead. And so she's like, what? Right? That's super confusing for people unless you show them why that matters. So with her, I want to talk specifically about this idea of how the interest rate and the closing costs relate. So I always want to direct people to this more info button. It used to be blue. I used to say this blue more info button. I have to not say blue anymore because I've been doing this for that long. But so this more info button right here, okay? And the first page is the breakdown of the payment. The first thing you're going to notice is there's no more mortgage insurance here. So that's great. We're really happy about that. We're going to say thank you to this $228 a month that you guys are spending, because it gave you access to this piece of real estate and the wealth that you guys have gained in the last year. This is phenomenal. We're glad to have paid that much money, but now we can say thank you. You can go now, right? Under the closing cost tab is where I really want you to see the difference. So in this guy here, in this 3.125 version that you've been quoted, it's going to cost you $2,400 in points in addition to the other closing costs, right? But in the version I think is a better fit for what you're describing, this credit here, this $3,400 of credit overwhelms the closing costs that you're going to need. So it's truly going to be no cost for you guys to be able to lower the payment by $300 a month. Whereas this one, we need to make sure that if we're looking at spending this money, that we're making sure we're making a smart money decision with that. And here's how I'm going to tell you how to find that out. Let's jump out of here. Let's look at these orange bars, which is what I use to make my personal decisions if I'm going to do anything. I'm looking at total cost. So in this case, I've got this over the next 24 months. This next 24 months, we know you guys are going to be out of there by then. If it's 12 months, this is still true. But 24 is absolutely still appropriate for what you guys are talking about. And so this is saying we're going to pay attention to upfront closing costs, so day one costs, and long-term costs, or midterm in this case, it's only 2 years. And saying, all right, this cost differential of interest that we have, Also, to pay attention to the difference in principal reduction from the difference that we're going to see here in a second. So that second part is the thing that most people don't pay attention to. But so for your guys' case, if you can click this more info button, it'll show you the net dollars for the closing costs. Okay, down here on this bottom one, that's what I want you to focus on for this guy. But so this guy here is going to cost you $6,000 to save $372 a month. This guy's here is going to cost you $200 to save $308 a month. So after that's paid attention to, there's not enough savings to justify this in the next 24 months. So even though it's counterintuitive to pay a higher interest rate, it's really, really smart to pay no costs and to be able to save overall $7,000 over the next 2 years for you guys.
So I love that story. By the way, guys, I put a link in chat so you guys could do it. For anyone that followed along, I followed along literally as she was clicking and things were moving. It was changing on my screen, which is, call it Mortgage Coach Live, a feature of Mortgage Coach that makes teaching people and getting their eyeballs to open a lot easier. Do you like that feature within Mortgage Coach?
Yeah, I mean, I have to use that because I need people, there's so much information otherwise. I don't want them feeling overwhelmed or uncomfortable or lost. So it's my job to direct them where they should be paying attention to.
Yeah, well, you do a great job of it. And guys, this is also a really standard strategy. Anytime you're competing with someone with a lower rate, the best mortgage strategy always beats the lowest rate. And so this is just a perfect example where she put in what the competitor's loan was. She came up with a better strategy and then she beat it. I'll bet you that you get less price exceptions than a lot of folks in your branch and in your company. Are you one of the more profitable loan officers?
Yep.
Yeah, it's always the case.
Yep.
We're doing multiple studies with a number of different lenders, and we're finding that the Mortgage Coach loan officers are at a minimum 30 basis points more profitable. Last year we used to say it was like 9 basis points more profitable, but right now I've got multiple case studies going where there's one where it's 27 basis points. There's one where it's 36 basis points. A Mortgage Coach loan officers closes more loans, higher conversion, does it more profitably.
And
Todd,
it just has the right to have the conversation, right? Because she was just like, I'm going to go over here because it's fine. I was like, whoa, wait a second.
Yeah. And the client's better off. They save money, you save money, everybody wins. Todd, questions or comments?
Well, let me do a couple of comments and then we can kind of see where it goes. One is go back to your price exception piece, right? Most loan officers, I know you don't care that you're getting a price exception, but when I hear less price exceptions, it's higher conversion and less stress, right? That's what you want as a loan officer.
Yep.
You want higher conversion, less stress. And if you're doing a better job by using Mortgage Coach, by doing what Elizabeth's doing and asking additional questions, then you're going to close more transactions with less stress. To me, that's what stands out the most because it's increased. When we were the 11 a.m. TCA a day mastermind that we're doing with Jeremy, the loan officer meeting, I mean, his number one guy who did all those TCAs increased his business by 142% over the last month. Less stress. And I think that's really key. And so, it's just one more great example where Elizabeth, you took it the extra step. Most people would have said, oh, I lost the deal or asked for a price exception. You went in and took gave a profitable third option that saved the client money. And so I just love the fact that you're taking the time to go a step further than most people go. And I think that if you're missing it as a LO, if you're losing transactions where you think, oh my gosh, because I give them my numbers, I'm going to lose it to somebody else. You're not. It's giving them options, right? Giving them more options allows them to see that, hey, you have the lower rate that the other person has, but there's the fees to it, just like Elizabeth pointed out. And then that gives you less stress because if they want to pick that lower option, they would have got somewhere else. They may or may not care about the fact that you're $200 or $300 or whatever it is more expensive because you offered it to them. And they also saw that you had the higher rate that you would have given them over the phone if you hadn't done a TCA. That's my 2 cents for whatever it's worth.
A lot of times too, I'll tell people, I was like, there's not a one size fits all option. So if you're just going to ask for an interest rate, I'm never going to just give you one interest rate. There's always options and you always have choices. And my goal is for you to understand what those different choices are so you can pick the choice that best fits with your overall goals.
yeah, I think that's a great script. And I think that, again, remember, if you pick wrong, right? If you think, oh, this person wants a higher rate with lower fees versus they're being quoted elsewhere, a lower rate with higher fees, you're going to lose 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And you're covering it all by giving them all the options.
And I'm challenging them. Don't think that there's only one option. So if somebody else is only giving you one option, which is like everybody, right? It's basically saying that without saying other people aren't doing a good job. You can't say that, but there's never just one option. I need you to be able to look at more than that and make you have the best choice for you.
Well, that's the key right there, guys, is
Not me.
she's given them the option of in the script of you choose what's best for you versus allowing someone else to choose what they think is best. I tend to think that most loan officers think in their head, no points, but remember, Quicken and all those other people, they're quoting rates with low rates with super high points. And so get out of your own mind of what you would do for yourself and give the client the options to choose using the tool that shows them the cost over time so they can make the best decision and then do what Elizabeth does. Although I still feel like Dave and I need to help you with a shorter video than 4 to 6 minutes.
I know.
We'll have that intervention some other time, but I'd say this, even though it's a long video, it's probably saving you painful, long conversations later.
It absolutely
You're
is,
going through it uninterrupted, giving them what you want. And I don't think from that perspective, I would criticize it all.
Okay.
Well, if it's working, it's working. So, hey, we got 4 minutes. I would love to hear the combination of the Mortgage Coach HomeBot script. So, clearly Mortgage Coach has a certain value prop to the consumer. HomeBot has a certain value prop. Could you just give us a feel for how you describe those two platforms and the value they create for a customer of yours?
No, I cannot do that for you.
Come on.
I can do lots of
please.
things really amazing. That's where they stop. There's the finite amount. So I don't do a great job at that right now. Honestly, I let HomeBot do its thing more than I'm not going to do a should on myself, but I value HomeBot because it is so obviously valuable to consumers, even without giving them a setup.
Got it. So that's not something you're doing, like, hey, I'm going to help you make the best decision today, Mortgage Coach, and I'm going to help manage that over time. And you're going to keep getting this invite to HomeBot. You're not.
The only time I will have a conversation about it, because I won't say I don't at all, but is if there's a new client that I had that I didn't do the purchase for. Let's just say that's the case. It's a referral from their brother, and they said, Elizabeth, help me with my refinance. She could help you too. And so then I don't have them in HomeBot already, right? And so then the conversation at that initial discussion is, I'm going to send you 2 things. So you're going to see 2 different emails from me today. One's going to be this comparison that's amazing, blah, blah, blah. The other is going to be a value on your property that you're going to probably see as pretty dang close. And I'm going to do a little bit of research on it my own. The other is going to be this other tool as far as the value of the property. Please scroll down. Don't just stop at the value, because that's one part of it, but scroll down and see some of these other pieces that are going to be included with that, and see if it clicks with anything else you're trying to accomplish. Then let me know.
So you do have a script there, and that's, again, it's simple, but when she has a new client, so for anyone that's listening to this, you got new clients, if you use Mortgage Coach and HomeBot, we heard how you describe it. And personally, I thought it was pretty valuable. And the other thing I took from it is that you're using it as part of your discovery. Like, look at it, scroll through it. Are there any goals? So now you're prepping that client that when you have the hopes and dreams conversation with them, you gave them some homework, and they're more likely to have a better hopes and dreams and goals conversation with you.
Yeah, because I need to find out if there's more than what they're thinking to tell me.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part of our gig here, is we can't assume anything on anybody, but we can ask thoughtful questions to get them thinking in a new way they've never thought before.
Love it. And remember, guys, we're going to book in this. Her mission is to create opportunities in others' lives they can't see for themselves. Did I say that right? Is that exactly how you said it?
Pretty dang good. I'll take it.
Okay. So that's the playbook, guys. Hopefully that's the takeaway. I would ask, my coaching push to everyone, I want you to think of the last 5 borrower conversations that you had with folks, and meetings that you had. And did you create opportunities that they hadn't already seen for themselves. If the answer is yes, 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 5 times, you're a mortgage coach, you're killing it. And if the answer is no, I just delivered a mortgage transaction and a rate quote and I pre-approved them, we'll just know there's a higher level in how you can play this game called mortgage. Todd, any last thoughts before we wrap it?
Well, you stole mine, which was going to be to repeat her mortgage coach why. I just think it's beautiful. And I just applaud you for taking the extra time to go the extra step, go past your paycheck and help them figure out how to increase their wealth through real estate. Go past your paycheck to figure out what you can do. And I just feel like if you watch this now, watch it again. There's a great opportunity for you to learn from Elizabeth, great scripting, great insight, and really great passion to help people be better, which I just love. So it was great meeting you. I really think you added a ton of value to our community today. Last plug, there's a link in here for the HomeBot webinar. So I think that we just touched on at the very end. I'll do my best next week on that free webinar to dig into scripting and other ideas that I have to help you guys who are using HomeBot to integrate it better into your business to create more opportunities for you and your clients.
All right, guys. So go past your paycheck, go past the transaction, and
Love it.
get people to think in different ways. This is a wrap. Have a great day, everybody. Give this a like. If you got value, share it with your mortgage friend and friends. And Elizabeth, thank you so much. Take care.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Bye.
That was awesome.